And then it's like a lane and a quarter width or a lane and a half width where people are not sure if it's supposed to be 2 lanes or 1 lane, so they kind of take it down the middle and they start to back up, and then we get people that are passing into the westbound traffic lanes to come back into the inside left turn lane. Because most of the people that are in those want to get on the freeway, so they fill that outside left turn lane up the quickest. And a lot of times you'll only get 2 or 3 cars in that inside left turn lane. And people way back see that, and they're willing to drive into oncoming traffic to get up there so they can make the light. This one, I don't know what the answer is. There's definitely a problem there, and I don't know where we would get the real estate to open that lane up, but it's definitely something that, I don't know if the commission looks at or makes a recommendation to ACHD to look at, but any help we could get in that area would be great. The one thing I don't want to see is a head-on collision, especially with somebody making a right turn off of Overland and the people are on the wrong side of the street, and we start having wrecks there because of that.
About a curb,
A curb?
keep them from going around.
A curb would be good.
That's scheduled for, it's unfunded, I think, yeah, for Overland and Eagle, the intersection, but, I was told that those businesses still have access to on the north side of Overland, still have access to turn left. I think that also should be, like the curb going down the far left-hand lanes to do right turn only out of those businesses going
Right.
westbound, yeah, so. I think
They do,
that's-
and if we made those a right only coming out of there, if they wanted to go left, there's still access further to the west, Benito. If they wanted to go out on a light, they could go all the way down to Millennium via Gala and Wells area, and they could go out on a light if they wanted to go left there.
You had 2 items on your agenda. Can we ask you to address a third one?
Certainly.
Caleb, do you have an extra sheet, or does he know this?
I have this one.
Oh, okay. So the speed zone or the speed study that we had requested, if you could comment on that, please?
So, it looked, the one that I was most concerned with was the one on Locust Grove between McMillan and Ustick. It's a 35 zone through there, and everywhere else is 40. And mostly what we were looking for there was continuity and the speed limit all the way through. So we didn't have 40 all the way from one end of Locust Grove to Ustick, and then it drops to 35 for a mile, and then it goes back to 40 for the last mile. So in looking at this, it looks like the 85th percentile is at 40. And then the average speed limit is 38.
Seems like it needs to change, right?
So, I think a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit would be perfect in that area. And then that makes it 40 the whole way through town, and there's no question for the officers about, well, am I in the 35 zone or am I in the 40 zone? Because there's a big difference between stopping somebody for going 45 and a 40 versus 45 and a 35. And
Who do you see for that ask?
I'm sorry?
Who do you see to make that proposal?
Yeah, for the commission to make that recommendation to ACHD.
Oh, okay. So you want to hear from us,
Certainly.
okay?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I can weigh in on this one, and then I'd like to circle back with your previous comments on the left turn lanes if we can, but, so Sergeant Arnold, you're standing there, but and Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna direct this way for a minute if I can, but, so Sean, I'm looking at your comments at the top of this page that says, based on these results, we aren't recommending any changes. So my question was gonna be, is the speed limit 40 on either side of Ustick and McMillan? And you say it is, Sergeant Arnold. So I'm curious, Sean, why ACHD is not recommending a change there?
The reason why we're not recommending changing in that area at this time, I think, is because of some of the land uses along the area. There's a couple schools in the area as well as the roadway isn't exactly finished. It's still 2 lanes for most part of it. I think there are some turn lanes at some intersections. It's certainly something we could take another look at if that's the desire of the commission in Meridian City. Just at this time, it's been that way for a long time, and it's just how that's just a recommendation. Doesn't mean that we can't take another look at it.
Okay, I guess with the knowledge that I have about setting speed limits, Mr. Chairman, I probably would ask that our commission make a formal request to change the speed limit on Locust Grove between Eustic and McMillan based on, and based on the data that ACHD has given us here. So, and thank you to ACHD for, accommodating these requests for doing the speed studies. So Sergeant Arnold, I guess back to you, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay.
Leave that motion out there? Or we, pick-
Yeah, I am for a second, because I want to add to the discussion, if you will,
All right,
if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
your show.
So Sergeant Arnold, remind us, Amity Road was also a request that you made to us that we made to ACHD, as I recall.
I don't remember making that one.
Oh, okay, that was Tracy, okay. All right, well then I won't ask you about
Okay.
that. No, I am gonna ask. So there's this Amity Road west of Locust Grove. Do you have any enforcement issues there? Because looking at the speed data here from ACHD, you could make the argument that the speed limit should be 5 miles per hour higher there too. So I'm just,
Is that
curious about your
another one of those
enforcement.
one sections where it's 50 and then it drops to 45 and then it goes back to 50 after Eagle Road, I think it is? Or is it 45 and then
It's coming out of that intersection, it's 40 up the hill, and then obviously if school's not in, it goes 40 all the way to turns 50 just after the school, and then it goes 50 to Eagle. Or to, Meridian Road, 69.
Okay.
Am I going the wrong way? No, that's right. Amity west of Locust Grove, yeah.
So it's 45.
It's 40 from the stop sign, up past the school, and then it goes to 50 just past the school.
But past Mary McPherson?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So coming the other way, you're 50, then you're 40, then you're 20, then you're 40, then you're 50, is how that goes.
Yeah, and from an enforcement standpoint, those are the kind of areas that we want to see more consistent across the board. It's hard to say, well, was that guy, especially at night, was that guy in the 40 zone or was he in the 45 zone? Like I said, there's a big difference between somebody going 50 and a 45 and 50 and a 40. 50 and a 45, we may look at it and say, well, there's no traffic out. 50 and a 40, we're going to say, yeah, I don't care if there's traffic out or not, that guy's going to get stopped. So those kinds, it just makes it easier for the patrolman when they know, I know this whole stretch of road is 45, and I don't have to worry about, unless there's a school zone, I don't have to worry about any changes in the speed limit or where I'm at or anything like that.
So, Mr. Chairman, so the reason I brought that is you can't almost get going 50 when you leave 69 on Amity, and then you go past, I can't think of the gravel pit sitting out there where trucks are rolling in and out of there. Then you hit 40 just right there before the school, and then if school's in, it drops to 20, and then it goes 40 till you clear the intersection at Locust Grove, and then it goes up to 50 about, 100 yards, 100 feet, 200 feet past Locust Grove, and it goes to 50.
So just past the church then?
Right
Yeah.
there at the church. So, there's just, and if if you get on the road then and you're going to any of those subdivisions, you're not getting 50 miles an hour. A lot of subdivisions going in there, people trying to get out of there going 25 onto
Well,
it.
and that's one of the things that I look at too is, you know, how many houses are we planning on putting in out there? And I'm sure it's somewhere in the hundreds, and then how many accesses to that road? And as the road either improves and we put center turn lanes in or something along those lines, how many people are we asking to pull out onto that road? I mean, Eagle Road is a good example, at Hobble Creek, and how many wrecks we had, and good, serious injury crashes we had because cars are going 45, 50, 60 miles an hour through there, and somebody pulls out in front of them, and are we setting ourselves up for the same thing on Amity? Are we setting ourselves up for the same thing on South Eagle Road? Before we start to either lower the speed limit so that if we do have a crash, the injuries aren't as severe, or hopefully we don't have any injuries, it's just a lot of property damage.
Other comments, follow-up? Mr. Lancaster, you're bringing your motion on.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to circle back to that and move the commission to make a formal request, or make a request to ACHD to raise, based on this data presented, to raise the speed limit to 40 miles per hour on Locust Grove between Ustick and McMillan.
Okay, there's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, ayes have it. Mr. Martin, will you take, let's see, so that motion is they consider raising that to a consistent speed limit then?
Well, as I worded the motion, not to consider it, but we're making a request to do it,
Okay, I
based
stand
on the data presented.
corrected. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Sean. So Sean, isn't Amity east of State Highway 69 and Amity west of Locust Grove the same road, same section?
It is. If I'm not mistaken, I have to go back and look at some emails, but I do believe the reason why that was dropped to 40 just west of Locust Grove was because of the school district's request to lower the speed limit in front of the school, not only to 20 during school, but also to 40 even after school hours or school drop-off times.
So this says the posted speed's 40, but it's only like half the road. Then the other half of the road's 50 when you're going through where the gravel pit is, I can't think, Dally.
Dolly or
Dolly.
D-A-H-L-E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 50 through there.
Right, and I think that's where we kind of made the change, was kind of right after the school. It should be 40, basically, from Locust Grove to the school, and then 50 past that. It's not normally something we do, change speed limits in the middle of a mile. Usually we try to keep them to mile segments if we do have a change, but if I'm not mistaken, this was because of the school's request.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McKinney?
looking at this, I'm inclined to agree that, a change in the speed limit along a 1 mile section is not, in my mind, such a significant change that it's really a problem. Having the 40 mile an hour baseline speed limit in front of the school, and really for the half-mile segment that goes from Locust Grove past the school, seems appropriate. And of course, within the school speed zone, of course, when, at certain times of the day, it's reduced to 20. Then the remaining western half-mile segment of Amity in this area, it's basically undeveloped on both sides. Strikes me that a 50 mile an hour speed limit is appropriate, especially given the speeds that people are going and will continue to go regardless of what's posted. I don't actually personally see a reason to make a change here on Amity Road.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hopkins?
since Dally's moved out there, there's a lot of dump trucks rolling out of Dally during the day, especially in the morning and stuff. They're usually coming out of, they're on the south side of the road, coming out right in the middle of that half-mile section, coming loaded out of there. So that snarls up the traffic even worse when just before school in the mornings and in the evenings. So just consistency throughout that would be, I mean, I'm not usually a proponent for lowering speed limits, but safety concerns through that area is pretty big since you got a heavy pipe contractor that's on that south side of the road, right in the middle of that. And I believe ACHD's got a pit up on top there also that they roll out of that. So anyway, that's why I requested the speed study.
Okay, but we have an approved, we have a request, change it to 45. Are we now,
No, that's
or 40?
Locust Grove.
Excuse me,
or-
Yeah, the previous motion dealt only with Locust Grove. We haven't made any motion related to Amity.
my apologies. Okay.
I'm not inclined to suggest any changes. We have lots of places in the city with, 50-mile-an-hour speed limit roads that have industrial traffic turning out onto them. And unless we have specific indications of accident history or trouble spots that our police department would be aware of, I don't see a reason to make a change at this point.
Okay. Any follow-up on Mr. McKinney's comments and Mr. Hopkins?
No.
Good to go? Mr. Lancaster?
Mr. Chairman, can we circle back to the new comments that Sergeant Arnold brought to us today about the left turn lanes? We kind of moved on to that, from that to the speed limits real quick, but I guess a discussion about the Meridian Road at Ustick, that was your first one, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess, help me here. So I know that there's a project scheduled for Meridian Road between Fairview and Cherry and Ustick. And is part of that project to also reevaluate the left turn phases at Ustick. I caught part of the whispers on this side of the room that if you use both those left turn lanes, then you're going away from the permissive phase to just protected phases now, which is to me, a reason to keep one lane for now. But I guess for those that are involved with the project, tell me how all this fits together.
I don't think that the project is dependent on the phasing of the left turn. We could change the left turn phase, at any time. And you're correct. The reason why we crossed one of those left turn lanes out was just so we can run flashing arrow that we don't do with dual left turns. That's the efficiency that we gain. If we went to dual lefts, that's going to be a 24-hour a day thing. So there's a couple options, I guess. Either we can look at that, or we could just look at perhaps trying to see if we just need to extend a green time for those. Sounds like the northbound in particular, left turn is the problem. Maybe we just try to increase that green time from 3:30 to 6. See if that might solve it first.
That might be a good solution too, because the southbound traffic north of the intersection you don't see the backups, except in the mornings. The morning commute, you get some backup, but not like you get during the afternoon commute for the northbound traffic. So maybe that's a good solution too, is extending that green time.
So, Mr. Chairman, it sounds like we have an informal way forward on that one, if ACHD is willing to take a look at that, so.
Yeah, I will have our condition management folks take a look at that one.
Thank you, Sean. And I'm admittedly not as familiar with, I didn't follow the conversation on the Overland and Eagle as well, but, if.
So, yeah, it sounds like that one might have a project anyways.
It's
Coming up.
unfunded, so it's
Oh, okay.
many years in the future.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
We're pulling up the map here. Okay.
So in your estimation, if they put a curb in there so that people can't deviate out of into oncoming traffic to circle around, I mean, you're right, it's about 3 cars is about all you can get in that.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's gonna it'll solve the problem of the people driving in oncoming traffic, but the cause of the problem is
Is it not long
that
enough?
outside lane is not long enough to hold
Yeah.
all the cars that wanna get onto the freeway. And most of those cars, when you watch them, most all the cars in that lane are taking the freeway, getting on eastbound.
I don't know if there's a solve there unless you can pick up some more real estate.
Well, the short lane is the lane to the left. It's pretty small, and that's for the people going into the Meridian. The outside lane, the lane on the right, is the one that people are lining up to go get on the interstate. Or they're racing the guys to the interstate.
I mean, even that picture that shows the exact problem, you can see that outside lane's backed up compared to the inside lane. I guess as a commission, we just, I don't know if we can have, I mean, just like any other thing, have Sean and your group analyze that and see if there's any short-term solves there.
Yeah, this one is a little tougher. To be honest with you, I think the best solution isn't the cheapest solution, and then requires a lot of doing would probably be to bring a 3rd lane all the way down from the ramp down to Eagle, and you would, if you could somehow get a dual turn onto the ramp, ultimately that's, I think, would be the best, because then you could have people from both those lanes get onto the ramp. But that is not a cheap or easy project to do.
I think the project that's unfunded is a joint ITD, ACHD project, is that correct?
I don't know if ITD would be involved in it. I guess it depends on what the scope of the project was, and if it did recommend something like that, then obviously we would have to get ITD involved.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lancaster?
so I think this is an interesting discussion, and I was thinking similarly to what Sean is, because, you know, we see some lane balance issues like this from time to time. You know, another place that comes to mind is on the Eagle Road on the north side of the village, is that River Valley, I think, you know. So the outside lane has higher volumes wanting to go to the village as opposed to the apartments on the north side. So, you know, it's not a unique issue here, and I don't know how you solve it. You know, Sean's idea about another lane onto the freeway makes sense for, you know, fixing this left turn lane. You know, of course, the side effect of that is, you know, putting too much traffic on the freeway is just as problematic, right? I mean, this is the argument I make at Meridian Interchange. We built a new interchange and it works too well and it makes the interstate bad, right? So there's all those trade-offs. So Sergeant Arnold, I don't know what to do about this one. You might have to let us think about it longer.
Mr. Lancaster, that is a puzzle. I go through that almost daily.
That's why I brought the idea here.
Yeah. So remind us next month.
All right.
So we're gonna think about that, Mr. Lancaster?
I think so. There may not be any, you know, magic solution there.
Okay. Do we have anything else for Sergeant Arnold? Sergeant, it's always good to see you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate
you.
your service.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay. Staff communications, we covered that with the speed zone or the speed study. Mr. Hood, is there anything else for us on staff communications?
Mr. Chair, maybe just to close the loop, the first one that I had there, I did get confirmation from our Parks Department.
Oh, yeah.
It came up the last couple of months anyways, and I've talked to them, and, excuse me, the section of pathway on McMillan, just west of Locust Grove. Let's see, where are we at here? Yeah, right here. I think it was Commissioner Leslie that brought it up. There was this section of pathway that had been gravel for like the last 6 months or so. That was recently paved anyway, so you have that confirmation there. There's still a little bit of pathway signage, but it is paved now, is my understanding. I still haven't been out there, but that's what Parks can.
It is paved and it's beautiful.
And then you already mentioned, and I mentioned it last month, but Miranda is no longer joining us. We'll see about, removing her name from the agenda, but it's vacant, technically vacant right now, that ex officio role. And we'll look to see when the school district hires somebody to get another representative back on here. And sort of along those lines, we have a follow-up meeting on Wednesday, May 29th at 4 o'clock here in conference room AB to meet with some neighbors in Paramount. This is the ongoing conversation just south of the high school in Paramount subdivision and that pathway connection that ties in with Paramount South 60 and the Taco John's, the Stinker, the Pizza, the Sonic, all that kind of area there, the apartment complex. So we're going to meet up with them. It's my understanding that last week some no parking, limited duration, no parking signs were installed. So this is kind of to circle back and see how they're working. And that gives us a few months before the next school year starts to see if there's any other tweaks or changes that need to occur before we get into a new school year there. So just a heads up that is sort of on its own path outside of your all, but don't be too terribly surprised if someone doesn't want to come back and talk to you about it. But moving forward with some hopefully some solutions that work for everybody involved there. So with that, those are the handful of communications that are in your packet, and would stand for any questions.
Any comments, follow-up for Mr. Hood? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hood. Future meeting topics. We have any additions?
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Hood.
I don't have any additions necessarily, but I will just bring to your attention again the September meeting. And if we're going to meet, which we could just simply cancel that meeting, or if we want to do a tour like we've done, I don't want to call it a tradition, but like we have normally done, I don't know where that might be. So if you have any ideas, keep thinking about that, or probably next month, let's just cancel our September meeting if we don't want to do a field trip, or we can simply have a regular meeting too. I guess we don't have to go on a field trip or cancel it. We could just have another regularly scheduled meeting on the second Monday. This one is more, and I can follow up with Tony a little bit, but the high capacity transit alternatives and just getting an update from Compass staff on that, probably in June or July. I think Rachel was tagged last month, Rachel Hakala with Compass was tagged with giving you an update, so expect that, and I'll need to coordinate with Rachel or someone else, I guess, at Compass to do that. And same with the master mobility map. First, thanks to those of you that were able to attend the focus group transportation meeting. While it's fresh in our minds, I think I probably will schedule that for June, just so we can kind of keep the momentum going on that and wrap it up in June. So that's going to be my plan anyways, is to circle back on that master mobility map and see what we really want that to be as a tool. And then kind of wrap the comprehensive plan update into that as well. Maybe do a little more. Again, I know 7 out of the 9 of you were there, but give a little bit of update on the comp plan and master mobility map in the next couple of months. So.
Very good.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I would also like to request to come in August to give an update on the Transportation Improvement Program update.
excellent. Any thoughts on Mr. Hood's comment about the September meeting, if we want to consider a field trip or passing on that month's meeting?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hopkins?
would it be of value, Caleb, to go visit the Parks Department and talk trails?
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hopkins, let me talk with them and see if they're willing to do that, or have them come here. I don't know what a field trip looks like. Do you have anything in mind? But maybe we could, I do have Parks on the railway trail alignment. Parks will be here for that, so I could even just piggyback railway trail with, that is pathway, potentially, so we could have them roll that into one topic. Or again, if you have a thought of what they do with their parks commissioners, they do a bike ride and kind of trail thing. I don't know if you're, something like that, we could.
Okay.
Very good. So I have it, our next meeting being June 3rd. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
See you on June 3, gentlemen and ladies.
We'll just get us. I'll bring some extra training wheels, just in case.
Yeah, let me talk with Brian.
Just get a scooter. Hey, you wanna hear something funny? My sister-in-law hadn't ridden a bike since she was a little kid.
Brian?
Absolutely.
She was struggling with the water.
No, he didn't say she was in trouble with water.
Okay.
Did you watch the,
Brian?
disqualified the horse?
I saw that. I kind of follow pieces of it, but I didn't see what was going on.
Tell me that doesn't happen in every horse.
Because he came out of his lane and he interrupted some horses that weren't gonna win.
Honestly. Yeah, we don't have to usually. Fighting council too, so.
It's universal too.
Down to Main Street. We did that. I don't know if it's right, if you're riding a bike route or whatever. Here's how they operate, or maybe maintenance facility. No, but he brought that up as maybe.
I've heard the same thing. Like me, I used to skateboard when I was younger, and I didn't do it for 20 years. And I get on the skate, like I have on my skateboard now, and I feel off. That's just, you lose that fine.
Well, that doesn't help because it may have been may have just been last year. I don't remember. But I know Jake was involved.
So even, I think that you actually lose it.
We're not to happy day.
So like,
And then it took the 40.
I ride my bike pretty much every day. And like mountain biking, I notice it more so because mountain biking is more about handling.
You can explore it.
By hand, it's not just pushing the buttons, right? And I notice I'm not as sharp
There you go.
now as I was 2 years ago.
It's a picture of Will's Park, well, the compass for a little bit, and then park here at the shop, and then park out here for a second. I didn't actually get on it because I had something else when I saw it. Anyways, yeah, if you can ground shoot that a little bit. Thank you.
Physics has a way of catching up. So the assignments are.
You guys have a good afternoon.
Well, I mean, it used to be when you talk about this. Steering committee,
So Sally.
Oh, really? Oh,
I just want you to know, your time wasn't wasted with Brian and I, we appreciate it. We brought that forward. There's just a lot of other things that go into that, and I know that's not workout center or concept, but it has some lingering components of it, but it certainly isn't, but it is.
Right. I think it's something that, you know, just mentioning here to this group, a lot of people say, hey, that's a good idea. And the thing is, it's almost like a blank slate out there, sort of, mostly undeveloped land. So it's a chance to do something like this. Not 10 miles different, it's just enough different.
All right.
So let me, just give me 1 second there, and look at the agenda for Wednesday. Again, Sally is part of that.
Big deal.
Animation. You can start buying more. Okay,
Right.
so let's make your hours. Today you turned 13. Normal. Professionals do like this.
Just happens. It's my birthday. Just
Specifically what I'm thinking of the chart. Yeah, but it's so small. It's not like a phase.
Because anyone in MIAC is, I think they have to be in high school. So, just whatever that is. So, and they're not MIAC, so really.
I remember,
But I know
when I was in high school, if I said, hey, depending on what friend, because if we had enough food in the refrigerator, for that or not.
Yes.
MIAC, you get a point.
Yes, I missed those days.
So long, everybody.
I am.
Good afternoon.
All right.
What was your question?
Headquarters right away or district traffic center?
They're talking future land use map, but not.
I'll have to ask.
But that said, getting us to where we have to have a draft to go publicly in July, so it's either this month or next month. We gotta print something. Coming up real soon.
Well, and maybe it would be good for you to just make, what I could do, I could talk to Sally briefly about this.
Commissioner Lanchester carries the football.
You want me to go talk to Justin? I think I've mentioned this, John, but in any case, I'd like to have something I can present.
But how
to
sure,
show,
Commissioner-
you know,
Commissioner
The
Lanchester.
whole concept, maybe that'd be some time to do that.
So this is our agenda for Wednesday, we're gonna be talking about chapters 2 and 3 and 5 to 6. This is
Right in the middle.
You have your future land use map update, so we are gonna be looking essentially at the same maps that's steering committee. So it is good, I just don't know how much time we're gonna have.
They do this year because
to
we have
get there, and I'll just be honest with you, you can't do the same presentation again.
Right, no, I
You gotta
understand.
tear that down.
Which means.
No, I know, that was too long. That was meant for general,
That was
who
good.
doesn't have any experience in the area. But, yeah, basically, I would just, one slide, or maybe two, show this and then show
Hey,
this.
IDAP,
Why
wow.
not do
I'm
something?
sorry, you lost all your
Here
access.
are all the reasons why.
Legislature.
And I'm open to that, it's just a little, like, you gotta, to some degree, appreciate a little bit of that, not that. But here's the problem. Other, I know I'm not saying there's special interests, but there's just other folks that wanna kinda get in and have that special touch.
Right.
And the idea is, you know, all the public has the same voice, but again, Sally wants to someone sponsor you or whatever, bring you to the meeting. Yeah, if you can do a couple of slides in 3 minutes or less.
Okay.
Let me run it by Brian and the consultant, just make sure that they're aware, and if they say, yeah, no, we don't have time for that, I'll follow up with you, but if you wanna plan on doing that, and are available Wednesday, or
Okay. Yeah, I
go
think-
with Sally, and you guys kinda tag team it a little bit, you know what I mean, if she's comfortable doing any of that. Just plan on it,
Okay.
and then, like I said, This month is gonna be better than next. Next month, we're too far down that road. Maybe tweaks. So changes, it's gonna be more difficult the longer, the closer we get to the right deadline.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Signature.
Yeah, I think so. But it says for the new regulation.
So half of my dad's got it.
Well, add on top of that, so the governor's office, it would be asking the two agencies to cut.
So, whether we use it.
Yeah.
I know where this is going.
So, yeah, we want something nice, so that's the politics. That's where it stands.
Highway 69 traffic study.
Yeah.
We are pretty much agreed on the scope of work. We need to move some money around for expenses. We can push that around in a few weeks. And on that one, this is gonna have a lot of staff time, the cities, et cetera. There's gonna be a lot of back and forth because of development, how to handle it. At this point, scenarios, such that you can consider it as actually, I'm gonna look at a 6/7 lane cross section, and then expressway. Actually, you have two choices. Expressway, or it's sort of like when I was driving through Texas with my daughter. But it looked to me, and I don't know for a fact, but it looked to me that they had these wider boulevards. And essentially replaced the expressways to get the traffic to move. So that's, those are the, and also the variety of them, whether you're gonna have Linder overcrossing, 16 connection. A lot of them were given that you have a 5-lane road, 10-line. So, a lot of, there's a lot of scenarios. Assumption. Well, I just think we run through them all to see how they work.
So is there any, I heard that the state was looking at potentially turning over that section of Meridian Road south to DCHD, is that?
That's going around. I don't know whether any formal of this has been done, but I've heard jokingly said. I can't.
Joe? That's why
Well, I
that's
don't
what I'm
know.
kinda asking.
I don't know whether, personally, we'd like to turn over Eagle Road too, but that's. a whole
Well,
other
yeah, you go
issue.
south is ACHD, that's why I guess I'm wondering, it's a similar thing, I mean, if you just got out of the once you get out of interchange, you
Yeah.
turn over. to-
Well, I mean, at least on Eagle Road, people said, of course, the ACC got taken. If we have 16, then we already have a connection between, our north-south connection.
Well, you could give
Eagle
up
Road
that
is
section between, yes,
Yeah.
44 or 2026, either way.
Right.
I mean, it's great,
So there's all that.
Just was curious, because that's a lot of work to do if you're just gonna turn it over to
Well,
ACHD.
Well, I haven't heard anything real. so.
Okay, that's why I was, like, it just came up recently, fairly recently, so I thought that would be maybe.
Well, part of it is that we're looking at turning over perhaps the boulevard out there in Caldwell from Centennial to Caldwell out to Crusher Road, that piece. So all sorts of stuff pops up in that. But no, at least from my point, I haven't heard any concrete.
Well, yeah, even not concrete, I just didn't know if that was really something that maybe eventually there would be. I don't know that ACHD is interested,
Yeah,
they have
yeah, a lot of
long
them
lake
think so.
house to maintain too, I don't know why they want to necessarily, but.
Yeah. So that's what we're looking for, so it's gonna be real big scenario
So
based.
you can update this group and then maybe come to council too at some point.
Okay,
and
we
give them an
have
update.
in the scope of work that we will be, a number of meetings that we can have. We're gonna have a kickoff meeting where we're gonna invite cities, counties, et cetera. Trying to essentially set up a communication as we go through things, and I think I've got additional time in there for additional meetings, besides after the first, at least the first meeting kickoff. Could be more Q of A, we could go through the scope of work so you can see what's going on. And at the end of it, we're gonna have an identical open house on, one in Meridian, same subject.
Let me know if you need a place,
Okay,
we're pretty much on, this Meridian Road, right, I mean, not the highway portion, so.
so.
There's that church down there too, usually, I think you know some things. Right there by Victory. 2 a.m. between, Overland and Victory, do I just need to stay tuned? Do you want
Stay
me to do
tuned.
anything right now?
I don't wanna say anything here because we haven't signed off anything, but, we've got some numbers there and it just comes to sort of, I've got two other contracts in motion right now, so it's like, okay, are we stealing from each other? How can we push the money around to maybe start one happy? So,
Well, thanks for
I think it's gonna be fun studying there from just the alternatives that we can go through. And then just remember that it's not an engineering study, it's a planning study, so if we, let's say that we came up with a, let's say, whatever, expressway, grade separated expressway, well, is it gonna go over or under? That's not the level of what we're doing, we're just saying what works to carry anticipated traffic in a way that maximizes performance type of thing, so.
Just had that meeting this morning and thought State Highway 16 was kind of blindsided by the 16 going over now instead of local who's going over.
Oh, how they changed it, yeah.
It's like preserving right of way and telling developer, you know, you plan for your extra way buffers over here because it slopes, and then all of a sudden those slopes are on the other side of the project. It's like, But, I mean, we can make it work, but it's just, yeah, the whole, the EIS isn't worth the paper it's printed on now for that, or the alternate access for parcels, you know?
Yeah, so this is an engineering level, so we'll get to see how it works later type of thing.
So what are the other two? You mentioned two other contracts that you're working on?
We've got Highway 44 that we're trying to get a supplemental on.
Okay.
And we've got Highway 55, NEPA level study on Karcher Road in Canyon County.
Okay.
So we've got that one where, so 44 wants a supplemental because it's, here we wanna, I'm not sure where we wanna put it, but. Yeah, we got any more rows than this, or where's the?
No, I think they just go right here.
Oh.
Hello, is there anything we can help with?
I think we're okay. I'm gonna put these tables away and thank you. And then you got the room, so I'm trying to get out of your way.
Last two, I mean, oh, just on the ends there?
I think one there. It's spot.
Someone who loves chocolate. And we know each other. Or juniors and seniors. I know.
Where is that? I am not ready to suffer.
I'm ready for the school year to be over. I need to get my grades up. Love you, Miss Rank.
Oh my gosh, look at Miss Frank.
See in government right now.
Like, you know what, the inconsistency between the two government teachers for me.
Laura just does whatever she wants, but then again, she's a druggie, so.
I was gonna say,
She's high all the time, so.
I'm sure we have some grades. Yeah, I have like a B9 association, like as long as the B is long, B is longer than B,
All right.
I'm fine. I guess B, I just got an A on 100.
You follow me by spam.
Maybe.
This made me laugh so hard. Did you read the caption? No. Yep, pretty much.
Kinda tell that she taught middle school. She's just a little bit dead inside, she's getting better.
English?
Oh, no, Billy, just,
Who do you have?
oh, I have Bryant.
I have Gordy. She came from 6th grade.
Ooh.
Yeah. The way she grades our essays, she marks out 1 point for like the tiniest thing. I had turned in my favorite essay that I've ever written. You know, I missed 5 points on it from one thing, a transition. And her comment was, this transition just isn't working for me, minus 5 points.
Well, that's exactly I can build off.
Yeah.
Well, okay, there's probably a good 5 to, I would say, 7 teachers that are just nasty, and then the rest are really good.
Yeah.
They're just
And we
nasty boys.
And then they all happen to be sophomore teachers.
Because everyone needs the sophomores.
Nasty
But I
teachers are
hate-
worse
I
too,
hate the sophomores.
because senior year when you do your IB test, we just started ours. Now I know that learning nothing in classes with bad teachers really comes back to bite you in the
Wait,
end.
are you at Renaissance?
No, I'm a North Star.
No, it's weird to think that someone else says I read.
I know, it's saying,
I was like, wait a minute.
I can't even drop it to what extent question with a lot of my friends.
Well, yeah, or it's so apparently the IB sciences at Renaissance sucked bad. And then some of my IB friends were talking about it, and they were turns out in other schools,
Yeah.
the IB science classes are the easy ones, not at Renaissance, just have bad teachers.
Yeah. When I was
Oh, yeah,
Almost.
oh, bye.
Slice bar some
Are you
dinner.
going back?
I didn't go to school today.
Okay, well,
I came by to drop it off. Well, feel better.
Yes.
Make sure people sign those.
Yes.
Okay, Ben, will you bring them to me after?
Yeah,
Or bring them to Slice Box or?
I'll bring them to you.
Okay.
when I was getting ready to fill out my application for
Dinner
Renaissance, I
everywhere.
talked to someone about it, seniors, and I was like,
Literally
hey,
the
what's
worst
hard about
deal.
Renaissance? And they're like, the only reason Renaissance is considered a hard school is because the teachers don't actually teach. They just make you teach yourself and then come to information.
Yeah,
I
kind of
feel that right
There
now.
are some teachers that are like that. I feel ooh, Mr. Peters.
Yeah.
I love Mr. Peters to death,
Oh.
but he was not.
Girl,
very
it's
good.
Peterson. I was like, what? Girl, it's
I love Mr. Peterson.
My sister hates him. And I was like, what did he do to you? You know, he's the best teacher ever. And she's like, no.
Tara has him too, and I guess he's changed a lot, because I don't think he's like the Mr. Peterson that we had at all.
Yeah,
But I think our,
really strict.
we had a really good class, and so he was really nice and stuff.
That could change a lot. But then again, there's one thing that hasn't changed about the grade in towards him, and I don't appreciate that. That was weird.
What
The
was?
cheerleader.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, so there's this one teacher in middle school, his name was Mr. Peterson, who's every girl likes, which I think is so wrong. It's so
Wait,
mean.
how old is he?
Teacher. All the girls were crushing on him.
How old is this guy?
He's
He was he's
Oh,
a couple
okay,
years
well,
out
that's
of
not
college.
You know
as-
something weird is my grandpa was my grandma's teacher.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's.
And volleyball coach.
Ooh.
That really grossed me out when
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that last year.
Oh, yeah, I'd be like,
But
Yeah.
yeah, and then there was this one pep rally where all of the teachers had to wear the cheerleaders uniforms.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Good for him, I guess. I don't know, it's weird.
But there was this one
I guess
pep
it's
rally
different than
where all the teachers had to wear the cheerleaders uniforms, which means tight tank tops, short skirts.
no, not all the teachers did it. I think it was on a volunteer basis. But Mr. Peterson volunteered.
Oh, no.
It was a belly shirt on him, basically.
And this guy's buff. And he's
Yeah.
really tall too, so the short skirt was even shorter, and all the girls were and I was like, oh my god, no.
Your teacher that everyone has a crush on wore a skirt?
A booty skirt and then
Oh.
a crop top.
Why?
It was some weird pep assembly where they made the teacher.
Oh, okay. So
teacher-
he didn't teach in it.
No.
Oh. Well, I don't know. Is he just
Hello, class.
I don't know what he's like.
Yeah.
No, he's not like that. He was
Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody.
No, this was in middle school, yeah. This is a while ago.
I wish that Cinco de Mayo is Monday that we call it Cinco de Mayo.
Oh.
Cool.
No, next Next year will be.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's leap year.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Oh, no. We need to pass on to the future generations.
Cinco de Mayo.
Whoa. I am going to be 18 next year. What? Wait, what the frick? Yeah.
What?
18's the weirdest year.
What?
18's the weirdest year. Because like you're an adult, but you're really not.
Yeah.
It's just,
I just like that thought. 18. Wait, Amber. Wait, you're not. Good. Chloe, when's your birthday? Thursday.
no way.
Really? Yes way.
Happy
18,
happy
17.
birthday!
I'm turning 16.
What? 16?
Yeah.
I turned 16. No, on last general meeting was my birthday.
Oh my gosh, you talked about it, right?
Yeah,
Because
so
my birthday was
in the very beginning of
Yeah.
September.
So, hey, future
I just turned
cheater.
19.
You just turned 19?
Yeah.
Dude, you're old.
I
You
just
are
turned
old.
16.
That's why I started shading again. Because I didn't want to like look 19 or 20.
I already gave one my.
Oh, freaking
I want to blend in with the high school.
Where's Maxer?
No, you know what I did? I'm
Frick! Where's your
Frick,
bike?
I'm clicking down. Oh my gosh, 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 oh my gosh. I totally forgot. I totally forgot. No wonder everyone's wearing my house shirt.
What were we supposed to
Oh my gosh, I
Yes,
totally
it was
forgot
in
that
the
email.
email.
I know it was in the email. I read it in
The
the
one
email.
that I
I was
made
like,
you
yeah.
that this matched.
Oh,
If I didn't respond to it, I didn't. Yeah. What were we
And
supposed
there's
to
no
write?
PowerPoint.
Yes, Matt City Money.
But we still have.
I thought it was just Matt City Money today. Is it not just Matt City Money the whole?
Well, we're having our regular opening. We're gonna be doing. Icebreaker.
No, give me like 5 minutes.
I hope you're good.
I'm actually just.
Wait, this is, so I was gonna pick Hannah up
This morning.
and I was like,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I'm really glad that you did.
I was at 3:45. Yeah, and Hannah didn't realize apparently either. So I was just like, okay, like, City Hall. I'm like, you're an hour early.
You should have come up and helped me.
I should, well, we like drove around some big fancy subdivision with like huge houses and
Very
we're
small set stuff. We were like,
Amber's like, if we keep driving along Meridian for 45 minutes, where will it take us? And I was like, I don't know, let's go. So we did.
I definitely anticipated everyone to volunteer.
Jody? Password is not password.
we'd be right after Nancy.
Password is not password.
First of all, who is? You're
I
not
don't
saying
know what
that.
else.
And I'm not
too.
valid.
That's because your job
But they
based
said
on
it's
GPA,
different.
so I got like a
Everyone has
lawyer.
their own
Yeah,
password.
I was a dental hygienist.
See whose password is not.
I was a university
That
administrator.
would be convenient though.
Did you make a lot?
Freaking 4.0, in order to get a job that made more than $50,000, you had to have more than a 4.0
In middle school?
in middle
Is
school.
that even possible?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
it
like,
is.
so you took like an honors
Sorry,
course.
that's
Our honors classes
No,
weren't
it's
weighted
not.
at our school. So ours just did
We're
4.0.
weighted.
Had things like that.
Yeah.
No, no, it was
Amber.
different. I remember being salty because I was in GT class.
Riley.
Yeah, do you remember how there was this one kid that was a plumber? We're like, what is your GPA? I'm bad for that.
We have a chamber. I know.
I don't think that one wasn't as bad as
My friend who had a 4.0 got an addictions
Minimum
counselor
wage.
with 5 kids, and she's like a single mother or whatever.
I was a single mom with like 2 kids, so I was good.
I was a
Except
lawyer with
I
a
did
stay.
not buy a dog, which is why I think I did well. Because everyone else was like, oh no, I negative 200. And I was like, I'm a dog class.
It's funny because they judge you on like how well you spend your money. So if you had money left, it was the same being bad as if like if you didn't you like lost money.
Well, that's why, but it's because they had a lot of options. Like
My
meal
husband was
savings.
a
So
free
I would
man.
get money left over. Everybody wants to.
No, I got money left. I have money left over, so I was like, shit, I got $500 because I had a lot of leftover money.
Man, it's like my husband like worked, but it would have been cheaper if he just stayed at home with the kids because daycare was so expensive.
I remember I was discriminated against for having braces. That was not okay.
Oh my gosh, but they charged me more for wearing glasses.
Yeah, they charge you more. They charge you more for optical
Oh, for
and teeth. Yeah. So like I went up to the dental booth and they're like, you have a bunch of bands, you have springs, and you have braces. We're gonna have to charge you like $5,000.
Yeah, because when you're like a person in their 30s with a career, you're still definitely gonna have those braces on.
Oh, most for sure.
Maybe you won't even
Some
have
people
them.
are like 40 with braces.
No, but if you have them on now, you're less likely to
that?
have them on.
Well, if you already had braces for 7 years,
Looks like
then I think you're
chocolate.
good.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's saying if you're an adult, right this second.
Man, that's a lot of things for the braces.
I don't know. All I know is my husband was
ton of
So
my
they made a
action.
big 11 story and my husband died.
Oh, that's
Surrender.
So tragically, I think he murdered him or something.
You know, honestly, that doesn't surprise me though, that you would do that.
I had two jobs on
It's a
top
very
of being an
genuine
archaeologist. I was an archaeologist and I served in the military and I worked in fast food. And I still couldn't make it.
Wow.
I know, it was rough. I lived in like a studio apartment with my 2 kids. Like, if my husband just stayed home from work, guys. Like, I hate talking about it.
Daycare was so much.
Oh, it was so expensive.
I was like, I actually lucked out with the husband thing, like being a freeloader, but he did watch the kids. That was nice.
Honestly, it's just so expensive.
He didn't even help out.
No, I mean, I didn't have to pay for daycare